You are listening to the Postcast, presented by the Locked On Senators podcast and the Glebe Central Pub. The Glebe Central Pub is your neighborhood pub in the heart of the Glebe. Go check them out for tasty food, great drinks, and an amazing atmosphere. You can find them at 779 Bank Street. And when you head there, make sure you let them know that Locked On Senators sent you. I'm Ross Levitan. With me, as always, Brandon Piller, and we've got Jack Richardson here rounding out the trio after a 2-1 Sens loss to the Boston Bruins in a game that had the final chance with the last second ticking off the clock. Pilsy, how did this one unfold in your eyes?
I mean, you got to give the Sens credit for playing a really good 40 minutes. Only issue is this game goes past 40 minutes, as that was a third period where the Boston Bruins just squeeze them out and just kind of keep possession of the puck. They play a really tight checking game, and the Senators are barely able to muster up anything, only getting 4 shots all period, and one of those comes right near the end where time is ticking down and Batherson has a great opportunity. But other than that, the Bruins just shut down that third period. And if the Senators had any chance in this game, they needed a better push than that. Unfortunately, they run out of time here, and it's a 2-1 game that doesn't go in their favor this time.
But with 2 minutes and 5 seconds left, they get a power play. You think momentum's following suit. Matt Sogard goes to the bench, but Jack, that really popped the balloon. It felt like they could barely get set up.
Yeah, anytime there's a 6-on-4, I get a little bit nervous about the empty net, because if you're the defending team, it's easy, right? You just whip the puck down at the net, but the Bruins didn't even do that. They just dominated the possession. I think the Sens had the same kind of entry 3 times with Chychrun over there flat-footed, and then just couldn't get the puck. I think this said more about the Bruins in that little sequence than it did about the Sens just on a back-to-back. And I pointed this out on Twitter, but both games in Boston this season, another one was a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, we're on the second half of a back-to-back for the Sens. Bruins were sitting there waiting in Boston both times. I would say both games, and this one especially, pretty impressive result for the Sens, all things considered. But at the end of the day, they didn't get the 2 points, and they've got now 11 games left on the season, and they're still 6 points out of a playoff spot. So those are points they need, and it would have been nice to see them convert on a glorious opportunity there with the power play to end.
I would have even been happy with the 1 point, Jack. Obviously, you want the 2, but going up against the Bruins, like you mentioned, you're kind of got the schedule against you, second half of a back-to-back on the road. If they would have just been able to tie this one up and get 1 point, every little thing matters at this stage of the race for the Ottawa Senators. But it's disappointing that a good effort doesn't lead to any sort of reward, unfortunately, especially with Mad Sogard. This was a statement game for him, I'd say. A big improvement, especially on the scoreboard from his last games, all on the road as well. So I really would have liked for the Sens to get a little cookie after this one, but it doesn't always go that way.
Good to see Mad Sogard have a great performance. The Sens' second period was one for the ages. 21 shots on this Bruins team. It was a high event period with 15 shots coming in their way as well. So 36 altogether, but Mad Sogard standing tall. All the goals in this game came in an 8-minute span in the first period. And Dylan Gambrell opened the scoring, his second goal of the season, assisted by Ridley Greig. And that's where it's frustrating too, because only for the 7th time in 20 games, Ottawa opens the scoring. And it lasts a total of 3 minutes? And then the Bruins went on for there. And I know it's a 5-on-3. Did you have any qualms with any of the calls onto that 5-on-3, Jack? Or was that just kind of them earning calls with their play?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to call it a dive on Pasternak, but it's a convenient placement from he knows Stützle's going to stop up on him and he tries to duck out of the way. It's kind of like when you see a hip check, but the player who's getting checked jumps out of the way, so it looks way cooler. I would say it was close to that. And to call that, to make it a 5-on-3, that's a tough one. If it was even strength and that happened, I could live with it. That was the only qualm I had with that one. I think the one on Kastelik was a good call because he again, it was crafty by Coyle, but that's what you got to do. Veteran teams get in there and they're crafty with the way they draw calls like that. And the Bruins did it. I think every penalty they drew tonight was an example of them just knowing, not selling and embellishing, but it's just the knowing what they're going to call in certain scenarios. So I think that was the only problem I had was Pasternak's, and it obviously led to the 5-on-3 goal, which, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but the timeout from Jim Montgomery, I was surprised. I mean, that early in the game. It was a tight game. They might have even needed that later in the game on an icing or something like that. Great move from him. Obviously, it paid off, but that was the only problem I had with the call. Yeah.
And then they used that momentum and score a few minutes later. The game was so wide open. My last note in the first period was just the fact that this is back and forth, great hockey, good pace, good period was what I wrote there. As simple as that. But that goal that ends up being the game winner in this one, Pilsy, there's nothing you can do about that one. That's just a high skill play, high speed play, and Jake DeBrus pulls it to the backhand, tucks it just ever so slightly between Sogard's leg and the left post.
Yeah, there's not much you can do there. Kind of similar to the one goal in Colorado where McKinnon, Rantanen, and Makar just decide to hook up on this one. Basically, Marchand does a great job. He's on the far side, and he sees DeBrus coming in hot. And everyone's so focused on Bergeron in the slot, which, I mean, why wouldn't you be? That's an obvious play for Marshy to get it over to Bergeron for a quick shot. But he's not looking at Bergeron. He's looking past him, and he hits DeBrusque in stride. Sogard's not even really ready for that. And then, yeah, he makes one little move and Sogard bites on it. And then he gets wide around him and tucks it in. So that's one of those goals where, like, everyone was kind of in a good spot. I didn't have too much qualms with any Sens player on that play. You just got to tip your cap to a good goal.
Good goal and a great team. The Boston Bruins, man, they come as advertised. They bring waves. They have that peskiness to them. You saw Garnet Hathaway mixing it up after multiple whistles, and they'll play any way you want. And I think that's going to do them well come playoff time. I know some people say they're ripe for a first round exit with just how dominant they've been. You think back to the 2019 Tampa Bay Lightning as the last team to run away with the President's Trophy and then come out flat in the first round. And in Tampa's case, losing to Columbus. Were they swept by Columbus? I think they were swept by Columbus.
Oh, yeah.
2019. I don't think this Bruins team's getting swept, but I saw Ian Mendez say that the Sens would give them a good round. And I mean, the games have been tight for the most part, as Jack mentioned. 2 of the 4 coming on the second half back-to-backs for Ottawa, but this was an empty the tank type game. You don't want to hear excuses about. I mean, did the team really play that much last night? At least offensively, you could argue defensively is where you burn more and end up feeling it in the legs the next day a bit more. But all in all, solid effort for the Sens. Nothing you can, get super upset about online. I'm still waiting for DeBrincat to score a goal. He gets another couple chances tonight. He's the highest paid forward in tonight's game between the two teams. So you look for him to kind of make a difference. He had that chance at the end of the second period where he ends up passing to Batherson, but Pillsy, that probably has time expire either way, whether he gets that shot off or not.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping he would just try to rip it at the blue line, but he wasn't sure how much time there was, and it's a 2-on-1. I think he's trying to get it over to Batherson as quick as he could, but man, if there's 2 extra seconds on that, Batherson was in such a good spot, and he had a wrister loaded up if there was a little bit more time. And then he gets the chance at the end of the game there too. So Batherson with some good chances as time expires in the second and third period.
Yeah, that second line to me was really impressive, and I liked
looked
Batherson.
Better than usual, eh?
It really did, and maybe it's because Stützle was just hounded by Bergeron and Marchand all night, like a tough matchup. But I mean, that's what they do. That's why they're so good, and why that top Bruins line is one of the best in the league. It's because they shut down the other top line. So then in a game like this, you got to look to the depth, and Gambrell getting that goal was great. But I thought that the reason the Bruins won this game and the reason they're a better team. And I'm not even complaining about the Sens' depth overall. Every fan base is going to go through this when the Bruins play them this year. They just roll over you, like you said, Ross, with 4 lines. They come at you hard. So I was really impressed with that second line because honestly, I thought every time they were out there, no matter who it was, they were the best line out there. They were carrying the play. And yeah, I'd love to see the DeBrincat, Barrie, Summon, and even Batherson. But I don't know. I'm sure you guys caught it this morning. Batherson talking about his ankle finally feeling normal again, and didn't want to make any excuses about the prior 60 games where he maybe wasn't playing his best. But you can tell, even just tonight and last night, I thought he's got the jump now. He's got that step that we were used to seeing last season. So Arundel is finally behind us over a year later. So it's really impressive seeing Batherson lead the way.
Wait, did you say that he said his ankle's better? I saw TSN 1200 tweeted that it's worse.
Maybe a little paraphrasing there that got the best of them this morning.
That's a
Look,
deep cut. People who aren't on Twitter are like, what the hell are they talking about?
yeah. Well, honestly, look, I love the defending DJ in that scenario because this guy is the hottest of seats right now. I think Martian said it. Like, he doesn't need any more heat for saying
He hasn't.
things. Yeah, I try and watch most of DJ's pre-game stuff in the media. I've gotten sick of the post-game stuff because it's all the same, but he's usually pretty, in tune. He's not going to throw his 22-year-old goalie under the bus.
No, and what's frustrating, I mean, didn't happen in this case, but sometimes Pillsy and I are mid-recording and we like seeing the quotes come in and we'll react to them. And that's a perfect example. TSN 1200 tweeting out today that basically last night the young goalie was good, but they didn't get the bounces, but it's been the opposite other nights, implying that the goalie just can't make saves when that's not exactly what he said. But leaving that there, I think that you're looking at a situation now. We haven't spoken since learning that Dylan Ferguson out with a non-COVID illness. And I think they used the word minor in the call-up tweet, the Sens media account. So just like when we talked to Pete Fry today, his mental coach, I think he expects to play Thursday against Tampa. Now, Pillsy, with how Mad Sogard played tonight, does that make you think twice?
I think it would make me think twice, but I really don't want to put too much on Sogard's workload here. Especially, we saw, I forget if it was the first or the second period, but Sogard was getting looked at by the trainer, and you're just sitting there being like, no way. Like, we cannot have this. Like, even our emergency guy we're bringing up had an illness and couldn't play. We can't have Sogard go down for any sort of time. And I think Fergie, he's got the juice right now. Like, he's really feeling good. So why not give him another game? I was so confused because I missed that tweet about the call up and the illness when Fergie wasn't on the bench. I was just like, what's going on here? Come on, get him out here. But it's good he took the night off. And if you ask me, I get Fergie out there Thursday.
We need Mad Sogard to start either Thursday or Monday at home against Florida. Pillsy, guess who reached out to me saying they're going to be in town on the weekend?
I don't know. Who?
Old Jonas Sogard, the brother and mom.
Oh, perfect. Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, shout out Jonas, friend of the show, Sens Central
Citizen. Yeah.
Born and raised Sens fan before Mads got drafted. He's like, hey, you going to be at the games this weekend? I said, unfortunately not. But yeah, so Mads' mom and brother are going to be in town for the next couple of games. So nice. Good to see him get back and a great performance for him. And now I'm heavily cheering for him to get into one of those home games. I know they play at New Jersey on Saturday, but Monday, Florida, that could be a big game depending on how the next few days roll out here. As we have to put our blue pom-poms on again with the Leafs playing Florida 3 times the rest of the year. Hopefully they do better against Florida than they do. I see they're losing 7-2 to the Islanders right now. But Jack, which way would you go? Would you go with Mads on Thursday at home against Tampa, or would you go with the Great Dane? Wait, Dylan Ferguson.
Fergalicious. I don't know, man. I think I would go with Ferguson on Thursday. Just rotate it, right? If they're both hot, the way the Sens handled having Talbot and Forsberg, I know they weren't really both healthy at the same time, but in December, Talbot played probably 75% of the games. I don't want that at all for these last 11. Just rotate, go 50-50. It just makes it so much easier for both of them to get in a rhythm. And I don't know. I think that's the way to go. I don't know if you want to look at matchups, maybe the goal Zach Burke is saying Ferguson's going to match up better against Tampa for some reason. I don't know if it's that crazy, but I would go Ferguson on Thursday. Just rotate, and I think the home crowd should see Ferguson. I think that performance yesterday was special, so it's cool for him to be able to play on home ice.
Just at 5:00 tonight, we put out a video with his mental skills coach. So if you missed that, go find that on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Coming up, we've got our Sens Central standouts presented by the Glebe Central Pub. The whole Postcast is presented by the Glebe Central Pub. We love our friends at the Glebe Central Pub. You can find them at 779 Bank Street. And when you head there in the heart of the Glebe, let them know that Locked On Senators sent you. Whether you're there for lunch, dinner, drinks, just a good time, play some darts, have some live music, do what all the great events Glebe Central Pub offers. You can also head there before every Senators game, grab a pint, and then stress-free. Get on the bus, $15 round trip. They bring you right back to the Glebe Central Pub. So head there, 779 Bank Street, and take a look at their website, glebecentralpub.com, and you can reserve your tickets for the Send Shuttle for most every game, but go double check their schedule online at glebecentralpub.com. When you head to the Glebe Central Pub, make sure you let them know that Locked On Senators sent you.
And we're also brought to you by the number one sportsbook in North America. It's FanDuel. They are an official partner of the NBA and NFL and official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. And for a good reason. You got to check out their app, guys. It's simple, safe, secure, easy to use, and it's going to make your sports betting experience that much more seamless. Live bet, the money line, get alternative point spreads, so many fun player props, and if you do same game parlays, you can have a bigger chance at a bigger payout. And for new customers, guys, now's the time to join because you get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your bet doesn't win. All you have to do is go to fanduel.com/lockedon. That's fanduel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook of the NBA.
All right, you're listening to the Postcast presented by the Locked On Senators podcast and the Glebe Central Pub. After a 2-1 loss in Boston to the Bruins, the Senators still one of only two teams to beat the Bruins twice this year. The Florida Panthers are the other. The Panthers now holding down the final playoff spot in the NHL's Eastern Conference. The Senators 6 points back and still even in games played after the Panthers suffered a loss tonight, 6-3 to the Philadelphia Flyers. Before we get into our Send Central standouts, we got to say thank you very much to Justin S. Nice little donation, couple shekels into the guitar case, and he's got a question with it. Justin asks, what's your opinion been of Jacob Chychrun recently? Pilsy, I'll start with you on this one.
I've really liked Jacob Chychrun's game, especially I think it's honestly, I can't decide whether I like the offensive part of his game or the defensive part of his game more because he does such a good job of maybe they don't always look like highlight reel plays, but that's because he breaks up plays with his gap control and with one hand on his stick, sweeping the area, using his other hand to get good body position. And before it's even a chance for him to make a diving play on a 2-on-1, it's already broken up and they've got to start over at the blue line. And then if you look at his offensive play, that wrist shot he has, Ross, you mentioned it a couple days ago. When he shoots from the point, he's shooting to score. He's not trying to get tips, deflections, rebounds, or just getting it on net for the sake of getting it on net and hoping for chaos. He's trying to rip that thing through the net. So I couldn't be more happy with Jacob Chychrun, honestly, and especially since he spent most of his time playing with guys like Hamonic, guys like Holden. So he's been able to really round out this decor and allow Chabot to play with Brandstrom and allow Sanderson and Zub to become a whole new great D pair. So I don't know about you, Jack, but you're not going to find too many complaints from me about Chychrun so far as a Senator.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat overall. I think kind of the not criticism, but he's fallen off considering where he started. Like he came in and I thought he was the best defenseman on the team. And he might still have that potential, but you're right. I think what you said about the gap control to me is the best. The way he's able to defend off the rush, which the Sens struggle at a lot, is really impressive. And also what you said about the rounding out the decor, that's the most impressive part to me because this decor now, I don't have a problem with it. I think you run back the exact same 6 guys when healthy next season. I like Hamonic. He's really settled down since Chychrun came, and especially on a pair with together, right? The thing that I think needs to be addressed is the depth and up front, but we'll get into that at another day. But Chychrun wise, I'm completely satisfied with the trade. If this was a swing and a miss kind of rental where they need to make the playoffs for this to matter at all, then it would be a different story. But the fact he's here for 2 more years, he can get comfortable in the summer, maybe stick around in Ottawa. I don't know if he's going to be up in Iron Prior all summer, but like
get some fritters.
Exactly. There you go. And maybe I know he was looking for some more raw beef or whatever he eats, and hopefully he got that sorted because he's going to be here for the next couple of years. So I think I've been really happy. But like you said again about Chabot, like just the way he's able to now be comfortable with Brandstrom, not have tough matchups and all that is so valuable. So Chychrun, it's more the presence than anything and what he does on the ice. He might not have the best game tonight. I don't know what the results were, but I was happy. I don't know about you, Ross.
Yeah, I'm feeling that he's trying to control a little too much when Hamonick's out there with him, and you can see the numbers have taken a bit of a step back in terms of the expected goals. Ironically, the two that he's the best at on the ice with, he's played the least with over the last few games, being Thomas Chabot and Eric Brandstrom.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting to see an extended run of Chabot and Chychrun and make that your top pair and actually have a legit number one pair. I know they're trying to make like a quasi shutdown pair out of Chychrun and Hamonic, but I think that's putting a bit of chains on Chychrun. I don't think he should be that defensive start. Like I know he's not even penalty killing, but they have him on in all these defensive zone situations and playing against other teams' best players. I'm not saying he can't do that, but I just like to see him get that number one pair minutes game in, game out. I don't mind that DJ's kind of gone this direction of kind of having three that he can rotate at even strength. But I think when you brought him in, you wanted him to be on that top pair and ultimately kind of push Hamonic down to the bottom pair. But I want to see a bigger sample size in 11 games before I get on him per se. But I think it's more a deployment issue than him. I think he's been perfectly fine. I love the way that with one hand on his stick, he seems to defend as well as most guys with two. And it gives him this, and he doesn't take any holding penalties. I was worried about that at the start, that he would kind of wrap because he has that leverage, but he kind of like rips his arm out and then with his strength could kind of like flip his wrist and kind of disrupt pucks like that. So I'd like to see more minutes, but out of what he's done in the minutes that are given to him on a daily basis, I've been happy with his play. Maybe a little more offense down the stretch. I know he's got 4 points in 11 games, but they all came in two different games, goal and an assist in each. So yeah, we'll see what's next with Chychrun, but Justin, hope that answers kind of where we're at with Jacob Chychrun at this point. I think he could be in the running for a Sens Central Citizen for this one, but Pillsy, I think we've got a pretty easy number one if you want to take it, or if you want to hand it over to our wonderful guest here.
You know what, Jack? I'll hand things down to you, and I'll react after what you go with here.
Well, I'm going to pretend that's not just because of my record on these things now. I didn't even address that before, but it's all good. It's all this was a win for me because
yeah, you got to take this one better than most.
It's been too many where they just haven't shown up, so I'll take this one. I don't think this is going to be the consensus answer, but I liked his game a lot, and I talked about it a little bit. I'm going to go with Drake Batherson. He's back. I think he's officially back. And like I pointed out just how that second line needs to be a good second line and turn into more of a 1A, 1B scenario for the Sens. You can't just be top heavy like they have been for the last couple months. And yeah, DeBrincat is probably the biggest part of that second line, but Batherson is too. You can't have one guy going with the motor. It's got to be Batherson too. And I thought he was driving play, making plays on the wall, using his size, which we haven't seen a lot this season. And if he's getting the puck to the net, I'm happy. And when he does that, good things happen. So I like Drake Batherson a lot. He's my Sens Central standout.
Nice. Yeah, he was a guy I had in mind as well. If you're passing it to me, then I'm going to go with the Great Dane, Mads Søgaard. This was such a big game for him. And I was kind of hoping that Dylan Ferguson coming in and having a big night and being the star of the show would kind of maybe have some sort of impact on Søgaard. Be like, okay, I got to step things up as well. Not that he's been terrible, but the numbers speak for themselves. And he would say he needs to improve a little. And he did that tonight. I mean, so many good opportunities, like right off the bat, the bad bounce off the stanchion and their Bertuzzi gets a quick chance and Søgaard's tough with it. And what I noticed that Søgaard is doing in this game that he hadn't really been doing before is he's battling to hold position, even when he gets knocked, even when he gets bumped. I felt like before he was kind of too easy to be moved around, especially for such a big dude like him. But this time he's holding his ground. He's making sure he keeps those rebounds. He's not letting the bumps get to him. And he had to make a bunch of really good saves all over this game. So for me, I think Mads Søgaard was the Sens' best player tonight.
Yeah, he was really good. I enjoyed watching his confidence, his poise, made a couple of glove saves. And how about that graphic that TSN pulled up? They actually had two really good ones that Noodles got into. One of them was how many goals he's let in the first half of periods. Out of 18 goals in the second period alone, 12 of them have come in the first half. And I think about 70% of his total goals against have come in the first half of each separate period. I wouldn't have even thought to look that one up, but good on them. Sport Logique helping them out. And the other one is what percentage of shots beat him high? And the Bruins knew that. They had that in their game plan. They were going upstairs high over and over and over again.
And Ross, not even just high, but they were saying 19 goals, 46% were glove hand. And Martian has been on Sogard about this. High glove has been an issue for him. And when you put it like that, when you put it into perspective, he's almost getting beat. Half of all the goal areas are his glove. Whew, you need to get on that. And I thought he played good tonight. Even made a couple good catches on Marshy, and the 2 goals that were allowed were not even close to the glove. So big improvement for Mads. We love to see that.
Yeah, I'm not much of a goalie critic, but I know when they're on. And honestly, like in the games where he was letting up so many goals, it was kind of deflating. Yeah, but it's not those squeakers, right? Most of them were he was just getting beat. So that's something as a goalie, I would imagine you can kind of fight with. You can be like, okay, I'm just getting beat, just a couple saves, and I get that confidence back. And I think the Ferguson comment about how watching Ferguson play so well yesterday has to light a fire under Sogard. Be like, okay, I've got a guy behind me now. I've got something to fight. It's just that internal competition that's so good for a goalie. It's such a unique position in hockey, right? So I love Sogard's game tonight. I think he's a great pick. But I wanted to let you have the Sogard one there, Pilsy.
Thanks, Jack.
You guys are so nice. What a heartwarming moment here tonight on Locked On Senators. This one is more for vibes than it is for potentially the numbers or whatnot. But Jake Sanderson, again, this guy continues to impress me every time he's out on the ice. And you look at him tonight going up against the other team's best players over and over again. And I thought he was fantastic defensively, smooth skating, doing everything and more of what you'd expect a number one defenseman to do. And I know that DJ Smith's on record as saying Thomas Chabot is banged up, but there's been a clear switch of who the number one defenseman is night in and night out on this team. 25:06, 4 minutes and 10 seconds more than any other defenseman on this team. He played 4 minutes and 20 seconds on the power play, 10 seconds shy of 5 minutes shorthanded. He's just a complete beast, and the more and more comfortable he's going to get, you'll see the offensive side round out. And I say that knowing that he's leading all rookie defensemen in points this season. But I think there's another gear for him to get to there. And like that he was kind of shooting back at David Pastrnak a little bit. Yep. It was just a little nudge. I know they showed a replay of it, but just a star in the making in Jake Sanderson. It's remarkable to see. And we got to really, really enjoy this next season of him being on his entry-level deal, because that ain't going to be anywhere near what he's making after that.
Okay, you guys want to get into it? What would you give him this summer if you had to talk extension? Like, what would you? If I'm Sanderson, I'm not putting pen to paper if it's anything more than 3 years. Like, I maybe it's just me because I like money, but I don't know, man. Like, if I'm Sanderson and I'm sitting there watching what I did this season, how I progressed, and watching Tim Stützle, what he did after he signed a long-term extension, you're talking tens of millions of dollars you could be sacrificing. So if I'm Sanderson, it's 3 years or less, if anything.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at a comparable, the Rasmus Dahlin 3x6 right out of his DLC is probably fair. And I think the Sens would like to do that as well, because they have a bunch of dead money on the books for one season past when Sanderson's up. I don't think they would mind to kind of have that restructuring come a couple of years down the road when, eventually, when you're looking, what's 4 years from now, Chabot's going to be 30, 31. And then when's his contract coming up? I think it'll be 1 year after a potential 3-year deal. Lots of ways to look at it, but I think they'll have some flexibility in where they reallocate money for a number one defenseman after that 6 years is up. And yeah, I was going to say, what would the raise realistically be from there? But his trajectory ever since his draft year has just been to the moon.
Yeah. We'll hold off on trying to predict his contract after this contract.
Yeah,
that's probably getting ahead of ourselves.
Well, you want to really get ahead of ourselves? I bet you were going to have Scott Wheeler replying to tweets saying that he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame when his career's done.
Yeah. Tweet it now. Yeah. And Ross, just to stay on tonight's game too, it wasn't just the eye test. Him and Zub had a really good game. Like the Corsi numbers for them, 14 Corsi 4, 7 Corsi against, good for a 66.67%. So they were the best decor of the night, and it was obvious, especially when like Sanderson's good in all situations. 5-on-5, yup, power play. He's now the quarterbacking the top unit, and he's killing penalties with really good success out there. So this kid's an absolute stud.
Okay, just while we're talking about contracts, like I don't really want to get too deep into it. We're gonna have all summer, but
Here we go.
what are you offering number 12 right now?
We're doing this.
I mean, it's the biggest question.
Okay. I've been thinking about this because I haven't really talked about it much. I've just avoided all DeBrincat contract discussion.
I waited till we were a half hour into the show.
Yeah, no, but I want to because okay, people, I legitimately see both sides. I see you gotta like the qualifying offer is what it is. You traded for it. You knew that was there, but then at the same time, he isn't the best player on this team. So how can you justify?
He has 4 even strength goals in his last 36 games since 2023.
Okay, so this is my thing.
4
on the side of him being worth it. I would not be shocked at all if he breaks out next season and gets 40 again. That would be completely justified. I'd be honestly more surprised if he stays at what he is this season. Like I think he's primed next year to break out again. The thing for me, if you're okay, so let's say A, he doesn't want to stay, or B, the Sens don't want to re-up with him. I think it was more likely that he doesn't want to stick around because I think the Sens are pretty committed to him. If that's the case, where are you trading him? And for what? Because so there's so many questions that have to happen after that. The first thing is, if the team you're trading him to is another team going to be like, oh yeah, he's worth 9 times 8. And what team is that? And if it's a team that is going to give you future assets, is it a contending team? Like no team has cap space to do that next season. Like there's so many little factors.
Yeah.
So I think the Sens do have the space to do it. You might just have to bite the bullet, and it's tough, but I think it's a good bet to me personally. Like I wrote about it actually around Christmas when he was hot, and I wrote that, and it's now been reported that it's probably going to be kicked to new ownership, which I think is good. I wrote that maybe you can get him around Timmy's number if you a front load maybe, or signing bonus money, which is something the Sens have never done. But with new ownership, you never know. So if you lower the AAV by giving him upfront money every season with signing bonuses, that might be a scenario where they can match the 9 per by bringing the AAV down. That would be my plan if I'm Dorion, if I'm still around to do those negotiations even. But that's my long-winded answer about DeBrincat's contract, because there's if you it's kind of like, you got a crossroads. If you pick one, you've got 7 other roads you got to go down to answer those questions. It's just easier to put pen to paper and sign him if he wants to stay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get too into DeBrincat contract because we're gonna have a lot of time to discuss that in the offseason. But I think no matter what, it's not going to be a long-term deal. No, I don't think either side is really interested in a long-term deal here. I think maybe the Sens are probably thinking, okay, this is you did not come as advertised, and DeBrincat's thinking this is a down year for me. I'm not putting all the chips in here. So I think we're looking at a 2 or 3 year deal either way. When that gets signed, who knows how much? I don't know. It's tough to say, honestly.
We do have to say, Justin, thank you so much. This guy is
Justin, our guy.
Absolute beauty tonight. Can't thank you enough. Super generous. Now, Justin's asking what the deal is with Ridley Greig. Says he looked like a beast out there tonight. Do you think he has the potential to stay permanently next year? I hope he can stay in the lineup for the rest of the season, but he needs to get a little more trust from DJ Smith, who's completely dropped him down to 4th line minutes, only 8 minutes and 14 seconds tonight, despite getting an assist. Now, did he play much after? Was it his penalty in the 3rd period, 2 minutes in, the tripping call on Connor Clifton? I'm looking up his time on ice chart right now. I'm curious if that coincided with him playing last. Well, yeah, after that, so his next shift was 3 seconds, which I would imagine is him skating from the penalty box off the ice. And then he only had 3 shifts in the rest of the period, including Pillsy. Get this. How often do you see this?
Oh, no.
He had a 1-second shift.
Is that just right off the draw, right to the bench? How is that happening?
That's more than 3 seconds.
I have a theory. I bet you it might have been when Sogard went to the bench, I think, and then they went offside right away, right? Was that 1 second?
That's just 7 minutes left. Oh, with 7 minutes left?
Oh,
no, that wouldn't have happened then. Yeah.
It was a mistake then. They called him back off the boards, and it was like, no, come back here, Ridley.
Yeah. Only other thing I can think of is if off the face-off and like puck shot out of play right away, and then Jim Montgomery wants his matchup or whatnot. And well, then he gets last change. So that can't be it. I don't know. Yeah,
Weird.
this is an anomaly here.
Mystery.
If you remember what happened for the Ridley Greig 1 second shift tonight, Eric Branstrom played that a 1 second shift as well at a different time in the third period. What is going on?
What is
DJ's
happening?
rolling the lines.
Yeah,
Everybody, quick change.
Yeah, what's happening here?
And then Zub's sitting there being like, I was out for 4 friggin' minutes last night.
That was crazy. That was crazy. To answer your question, I think he was probably sat down after that penalty. I think someone said that's 4 minor penalties in 4 straight games for Ridley Greig.
Yeah.
I do like his game, obviously. He just needs to add a bit of size somehow. He needs to get a bit of girth to him. He's so slight, even with the way he plays. But tonight he made the play to intercept the pass, and that's why Gambrell scored. Like, he had a nice assist. So assists in back-to-back games for Ridley Greig. He had one last night too. I like his play, and I really do think that he'll challenge for a spot next season. I think you're looking at a third line of Pinto. Joseph's probably going to have that spot, and then it's a battle for that left wing spot. So if Greig can put on a bit of size, he's got to put on some weight somehow this summer, in a good way, obviously for pro athletes, and then be able to play on the wing, because it's a much different game than playing up the middle.
Yeah, and we finally got to see him on the wing. That was something I actually was intrigued about. He was my locked on player, and I mentioned because he needs to get a boost at second line center. I was not expecting him to go down to fourth line wing, but I think if he's going to have success in the NHL early on, it's going to be in the wing, because your center depth is perfect, in my opinion, if you're looking at Timmy, Norris, Pinto, and Casta. Like I wouldn't change a thing there. So, and I'm not moving any of those guys to the wing either. So I think if Ridley wants to make it, it's like you mentioned, Jack, as a third line winger.
This is an interesting debate, because I think a lot of people are like, oh, it's either Pinto or Greig down the middle and the other guy moves out. But I think we've kind of seen what we're worried about in an extent, where Ridley Greig's frame is just having a bit of trouble adjusting to NHL contact game in, game out. And not like this is an easy back-to-back. You're playing Crosby Malkin, and then the next night you're playing Bergeron Krejci, and even Charlie Coyle is a big body who could grind it out. That whole Bruins line, as we talked about earlier in the show, just that's not a team I want to play in the first round, when you've kind of got a grinding mindset on every single line that you play. Who had Pavel Zacha exploding for almost 50 points this year as well? Like, everyone that goes there, it seems
Check
like
line
just touches gold. Pasta was kind of kept at bay for the most part in this game, wouldn't you say?
He might be the most surprising 100-point player ever. I think I love him. He's so good, but he's such a unique guy, right? He almost like Mark Stone. I feel like he's not the best skater, but he's just so deceptive. And this guy's going to score 50 goals and get 100 points this season, and it's kind of crazy that no one talks about him.
Did have 7 shots though.
Yeah, he had a couple good backhand opportunities where he got around defenders and got in tight, but he was there for the saves.
I guess he was kind of all over it when you think about it. But like he had some nice looks on the power play too that Sogard stopped with, like a little blocker save. But I don't know. I mean, the Bruins, like you touched on it earlier, Ross. This team is good. I can't see anyone beating them, man. I don't know. Olmark, like, he's the best. Like he's gonna get a triple crown of goaltending, which just never happens.
He should. He had 40 save performance tonight, and that whole decor, they just play with so much pace. And I've just been singing the praises of Hampus Lindholm for what feels like a half decade back to his time with Anaheim. But the fact they were able to get him and extend him right away, and he comes out, he's got, like, he was a defensive defenseman, and it seemed like in Anaheim, where he was like a 25, 30 point guy. And all of a sudden now he's got 48 points in 69 games this year.
Huge.
Like he's beat his previous career high by 16 points, and he's still got 10 games to go. Just quite a breakout. Like, yeah, I know this isn't Locked On Bruins, but you got to kind of marvel when you see the Sens play against this team. Like, this is the gold standard. This is what you need to play ahead of, not chase as much as the Sens did tonight. And yeah, not much you can do on that 5-on-3 goal. And then credit where it's due, that pass was just absolutely sick on the DeBrusque goal. And yeah, there's nothing I think that you're looking at the Sens tonight and saying, oh man, they should have done this, they should have done that. Maybe some coaching decisions if you want to nitpick, but I think all in all, you played till the last moment, get that chance despite not being able to really set up, and then that awful behind the back pass by Brady Tkachuk lucky enough, they still keep the offensive possession. It goes right to Drake Batherson, just kind of bouncing puck, follow the bouncing puck, and it finds its way down low. But yeah, overall, pretty happy with their performance tonight, and I think a day off will do them good. And have the Tampa Bay Lightning rebounded from their bad stretch? Do you guys know?
A little. I know they were down to Montreal tonight, so we're gonna get another team who's supposed to
They
be elite.
lost.
Okay, yeah, so they lost to another rebuilding team. So I feel like every time the Sens play someone elite, they're coming off of an embarrassing loss. So
And well, hopefully, if you're Ottawa, you're thinking Tampa's looking ahead because they're at Boston, at Carolina the next 2 games after that. It's their second of a 4-game road trip, as you guys mentioned, starting with a loss in Montreal tonight. So I'm interested to see that game. I'm interested to see Dylan Ferguson hopefully get a start at home, and there's some great storylines here as we continue down the stretch with the Ottawa Senators. Pilsy, are you down to one paw left on the old hand?
No, because that Pittsburgh game was so huge. Like getting the win and in regulation was so huge. I mean, the Bruins winning doesn't change anything, and it was a pretty favorable out of town scoreboard tonight. So I think we still got a couple paws on the side of the cliff here, Ross.
Okay. Okay.
6 points out of Florida, who everyone's chasing right now, and they play twice. So
Yeah.
that's you just got to look at those games like those Detroit ones, and it's next Monday, I guess, a couple in between then.
Those are the final paws. That's
And
it.
and,
Florida
and
games.
Florida's playing Toronto on Thursday, and then they got someone tough on Saturday as well before they play the Sens again. It might be. I'm not sure. I looked at their next 3 games, and I know Philly was one, and they lost to Philly.
I got it coming up here, one click away. As they played Philly tonight, they've got Toronto on Thursday, and then home to the New York Rangers on Saturday.
Whew.
Not easy, not easy. Like I know their schedule was supposed to be the easiest, like strength of schedule wise, and the Sens are getting kind of beat up in this stretch here. But if you can get points from Tampa on home ice, because I know the Sens are a much different team on home ice, and then roll into the weekend against the Devils and Panthers, and then make something happen. Because these next 3 games are gonna be it. And we keep saying that, I feel like, but I'm clinging on.
That's meaningful games, though, fellas.
It is. I'm still clinging on. Until they're officially out.
Okay. Pilsy, what do you got final thoughts for us tonight?
Final thoughts is I'm pretty proud about the Ottawa Senators in this back-to-back. Easily the toughest back-to-back of the entire year. When it's meaningful games, you're running out of time, you're falling behind in the wild card race, and both 2-1 games. One where you get outworked and a goalie gets his first NHL win, and then the other one where you play really well for 40 minutes and then just can't quite come up with it. So I'm pretty happy with how this back-to-back went, and I think that gives pretty good momentum heading home to Tampa here.
Yeah, I completely agree. Jack, where are you at? I know you said you're hanging on, but are you looking at this next game as the season, or are you kind of with Pilsy where it's like we can kind of hang on? They win 1 out of 2. Are you still going to believe?
Yeah, I'm not. I mean that stretch where they lost 5 in a row and all that, like that kind of killed that vibe that we had after the Chychrun trade and all that, and the who wants it and everything like that. But I'm still clinging on. They're still competing. The core looks awesome. Sanderson's the number 1 D on this team in his rookie season. Tim Stützle is on pace for almost like 100 points as a 21-year-old. Like so many things have gone pretty well for the Sens this year, all things considered, and they're in the hunt technically for a playoff spot. So no, I'm not going to hang my head. And then that effort against the Bruins tonight was awesome.
Yeah, I think we can leave it at that. The vibes are still good despite a 2-1 loss to the Boston Bruins. The Senators coming home have the day off tomorrow, but we don't. On Locked On Senators, we'll have a show for you probably around noon, I'd say, but lots of content to catch up on from tonight's postcast. If you missed any of it, you can find it wherever you get your podcasts on YouTube and we're on your audio feeds. We also have an interview with Dylan Ferguson's goalie coach. Final question from here. We appreciate you, Jimmy Stews. What happens to Igor Sokolov? I think right now he's kind of in the same position as the Ottawa Senators are in. They gotta win some games here down the stretch to make the playoffs. I think that should be his only focus right now. Pills?
Yeah, I mean, stay dominating in Belleville. I think if he can get a more extended playoff look than the garbage that the AHL gave the Belleville Senators last season, then I think it's positive for him. So yeah, I would like to see Igor get a chance in the NHL, but I think Belleville's got enough momentum that they could play in meaningful games here.
Well, Justin's not letting us go to sleep because this guy is honestly just way too generous tonight.
Wow.
The hated question: how are we feeling with DJ's performance with the team? A loaded question. I thought it was fine. I thought he was fine today. I think that this is not the kind of performance where I'm going to yell and kick and scream about the coaching. I discussed my qualms with how the defense is kind of jumbled up right now, and you're kind of, I think, not putting your newest addition, your brightest, your shiny new toy. You're not putting him at the front of the toy cabinet. He's kind of getting shoved in the background and saying, "Hey, go play defense for me. Go play hard out there for me." When I think there's a lot more to it than that. He needs to have his arms moved a little bit, keep the grease in it and keep moving around, because right now it seems like he'll settle into a defensive role, but I also think that he's got more than that. So that's my biggest qualm with DJ Smith right now.
Yeah, Jack, how about you?
I don't know. I mean, I feel not happy, but like I've been in DJ's corner all season, and November I was at my breaking point, and then I'm like, oh, when they play well, it's hard to knock the way they're playing. I think he's coaching the team he has, and tonight I think the only issue that people probably had was how many times the fourth line was out there, and then over the boards comes Bergeron and Marchand, right?
Yep.
I don't know. That's something where you can't blame the coach, because you can't run your top guys into the ground again after a back-to-back situation, and that's on depth. So it's not DJ's fault. Coach the team you have. Yeah, I don't know. It's so weird as how much leash he's had, right? Like any other team in the NHL, like he's gone probably last season around this time. So I don't know. It's really hard to analyze, especially when they play well like this, but then play like crap against Chicago.
I think that Pilsy does not want to hear about that game anymore.
No. No, I do not.
For me, the future of DJ Smith, and I hate to what do they say? Let the inmates run the asylum to an extent.
Nice.
That's an old school quote. I think you sit down with Claude Giroux, Brady Tkachuk, Tim Stützle at the end of the year, and you say, and Thomas Chabot, sure, Jake Sanderson. You can kind of expand the core here, and maybe the most important guy to speak to is Alex DeBrincat about what he's thinking about DJ. Honestly, like behind closed doors, without no Mike Babcock list that it's going to come back to him. I think Pierre Dorion needs to have some honest conversations with his leader, some tough conversations, because the one theme remains true through the entire DJ Smith conversation is that he's a great dude.
Yep.
and a good coach. Is it an NHL coach or a junior coach or a coach of a team that's up and coming, or can he be that strategist, that guy who's like X's and O's and getting you past that when every inch matters? Because that's literally when it comes down to, like whether it's a post that goes out or in, like Brady in overtime last game against Toronto, or whatever it is. Not last game, 2 games ago now. They're playing every other night. This is 3rd and 4. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah,
that's a grind. But yeah, I think it's going to be, I think, a group decision this summer, or I would like it to be a group decision whether or not DJ's back.
I honestly like DJ. I think he's a good guy, like you mentioned. We had him on our show. I thought that he's done what he needed to do for this team, but I think eventually all coaches' voices and messages get old, and we're approaching year 5 of DJ Smith here, and
7th longest serving coach in the league.
If he had a string of success like John Cooper, then you start saying, well, it doesn't matter if the voice getting old, or maybe he's able to adapt or whatever, and it's fine. But we even saw Ross in Winnipeg. Paul Maurice was just like, hey, I've done everything I can with this group. They're like, I can't really change my message. I can't really change anything here. It's not going to work out. And Elliot Friedman always references in the NBA. I think it was Larry Bird was coach for the Indiana Pacers. And he said, I'm doing 3 years and that's it. And then after the 3 years, they were like, oh, like you've done a great job. Like we want to re-sign you. And he's like, no, as a player, I know coaches' voices and message get old after a while. And as a coach, I'm not going to have that happen. So I think DJ Smith, it's just the perfect fork in the road here, because new ownership's going to come. I'm sure they're going to want to bring in their guys. You can't blame them after making a $900+ million investment. They want to do what they want to do. So I don't have an issue with where DJ Smith is now, where he's been, where he's taken this team. But I think if this team is going to take the next step, they need to start taking some risks and making some changes. And I think that could be a good place to start.
You look at the list of NHL head coaches longest serving: John Cooper, 10 years, what? 4 Stanley Cup finals, because
Yeah.
2015 as well. Then you have Mike Sullivan, 2 Stanley Cups. You have Jared Bednar, Stanley Cup. You have Rod Brindamore, who their owner is on the record as saying he will coach for 25 years if he likes. He's that safe in his spot. Craig Berube, Stanley Cup. Los Angeles Kings, a team that's on the rise, and they went from rebuilding and high draft picks to Todd McClellan turning them around, and now they look like they could even win the Pacific Division. And then the Ottawa Senators right there with DJ Smith.
So Todd McClellan's interesting. I didn't know that he's kind of like same higher time period. The Sens and Kings were in the lottery at the same time. But the Kings had Kopitar, Doughty. Their blue line has been better for a longer time. I'm not making excuses. They're also in the Pacific Division, so they made the playoffs last year. Probably snuck in a little bit. That's interesting. I didn't know he was up there, so that's kind of a good perspective. Now the Kings are going to make the playoffs again this year, and that's a factor, right? I think if the Sens somehow sneak in, then you could put that in that context. But we've watched this team every day for the last however long. We know that it runs its course. I can't imagine the players. And honestly, the Kings are a huge market. I wouldn't be surprised if they get bounced in the first round again this year if he's gone. That's just the way it works sometimes. So that's interesting, though. I didn't really realize that it was the same kind of timeline for those two.
Yeah, we've said before that, and this is kind of, I don't know if it's fair, but it's like coaches have been fired for a lot less than what's gone on in Ottawa.
And I think the difference with McClellan, too, is that's a guy with a lot of NHL head coaching experience, right? Whereas, and he's been in the playoffs and he's gone through these grinds, where DJ, he's a fresh coach. That's nothing against him. It's just a matter of fact. So I think if you're looking to take that next step into the playoffs, I think you need someone who has that experience and can kind of knows how to go through that. So, but there's nothing wrong with that. DJ, he's done a good job with the team he's had. He's motivated these guys, and it's just time to move on, I think.
Yeah, well, we'll find out at about, I don't know, a week after the NHL regular season. Right now, it's Tyler Clevin watch, and I'll start getting nervous on Thursday if he doesn't sign. I think we give him 2 more days. They last played on Friday night. So take the weekend, go back to school Monday, get your stuff together Tuesday, have the conversation with the coach Wednesday, sign Wednesday night. If he's not signed by Thursday, we'll have a lot to talk about on Locked On Senators. But for tonight, we say goodbye after a 2-1 loss to Boston Bruins for the Ottawa Senators. Appreciate you all so much for joining us after each and every game in the Postcast. But if you miss any of the Postcasts, they're available on your audio feeds and on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. For Brandon Piller and Jack Richardson, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators Postcast, presented